Evening. We made it back for another edition of the Buddy Martin Show. Helter skelter though it may seem, we are here in Ocala, live at my sister-in-law's house, Nell, and we're be joined tonight by the esteemed lineup of one Francis Beard, who is Mr. Basketball Extraordinaire, also Scott Carter from UF, and Nick Calipari, just coming back from Augusta. Don't we wish we were there? Well, Franz has been there, and I have too. We'll talk about that some tonight. But right now, it's all about John Calipari. And ponder this one. Would Gator fans trade Todd Golden for John Calipari? Just asking. Stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is next, right here. Tell your friends and neighbors we are on the air.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, another day, another 8 or 10, $12 million is just not very much. Everybody's got it out there. And today, the Arkansas Razorbacks pulled off a bit of a coup. You don't see this very often. A guy who is ranked among, although some people might not think he is still ranked among the best in the business, leaving to go to another SEC program not nearly as well known as Kentucky. Well, let's talk to Mr. Basketball. Go straight to Franz. He's agreed to join us. He's busy tonight. We got Scott Carter later, and let's see what Franz Beard has to say. After all the hoopla in Arkansas, they're very proud, Franz, and you can't blame them.
Well, I don't blame them at all. They just had a serious upgrade from Eric Musselman. Eric Musselman is a good basketball coach. I mean, a good one. Okay. John Calipari is an elite basketball coach. I know a lot of people have asked me over the last 3 days. They've said, why? Why would he leave Kentucky? Well, remember something that Steve Spurrier said back in 2001 when he said, I think 12 years at a place, you start getting a little stale. Remember?
That's exactly it. Yes, that is true. And basically, if we talked before the program, Cal said, you want to match it? And they said no. It was a great deal for everybody concerned because that $33 million buyout didn't have to take place. And of course, it was time for Cal to move on. In his mind, I think a lot of Kentucky fans, but be careful what you ask for because I think a lot of people would like to have had Steve Spurrier back in the door the next year. But I don't know. Where does he rank among the all-timers? I know he has the most wins of anybody active in college basketball. Give me your assessment of Cal. You know him pretty well.
Yeah, he's a friend, and been a friend for a long time. John Calipari, if he made a great mistake at Kentucky, here's what it was. He has always been a player's first guy. And one of the things I remember him telling me, sitting down at Peach Jam, I guess it was maybe 2009, and I was sitting down with him, and we sat through an entire ball game. And he said, here's the deal. He said, I'm taking kids who are from bad backgrounds, and I'm giving them an opportunity on this one and done deal that they can become a multimillionaire the next year. And he was more concerned with the kids getting onto that next level. And he won a lot of games that way because he had superior talent. But I think he neglected something that he really is good at. and he really is a good basketball coach, really knows his stuff. Comes up through the tree. You got to remember something. He comes up through the tree of Larry Brown. He and Bill Self were Larry Brown's assistants in 1988 when Kansas wins the national championship. That's a pretty good coaching staff. You got to think about it.
Yes.
Because Larry Brown, I know, Larry Brown gets ripped all the time for always taking a job and leaving and so forth like that. And Larry earned his nickname, the Wandering Jew. He really did earn it because he never stayed long anywhere he ever went. But that was a great coaching staff that he had there together. And you look at what the Self's done at Kansas, what Cal's done at UMass, and at Memphis and at Kentucky. He knows how to coach. He needed a jump start. He needed to be shaken by his lapels. And I think, buddy, he goes in there with Mitch Barnhart, and they have their meeting, and you're hearing all these Kentucky fans saying he's got to go. He's got to go. He's run out of steam. And I think Cal went in there with the idea saying, tell me you want me and I'll revitalize my career. I'll rejuvenate my career right here. Just tell me you want me. And he left there not believing they wanted him. And I don't think they did. But I think they were reluctant because $33 million is what it would have taken. And one thing I do know from having talked with John, not this year, but just the year before, and we talked about his lifetime contract. He says, hey, I didn't hold the gun to their head when they gave me the contract. They gave it to him willingly, that big buyout. And I think it calls into account some of the things we've been seeing, like with Jimbo Fisher and some of these other people with these huge buyouts. Yep. Nobody's holding it to the coach's head and saying that the coach is demanding this gigantic buyout.
Right. Okay, I want to just make one more comment, and we're going to expect Scott Carter here in a minute. If you'll hang around for a second, I got a couple of football questions for you too, Franz, about what's going on. This is the Orange and Blue game this week, and there's some things have been changed, and I want to get your take on what you've been hearing and seeing lately. It seems like it's on the uptick. But I'll ask you this question. It maybe sound like a silly question, but if you are sitting there and you're a Florida fan and you're thinking, would I rather have Todd Golden or John Calipari? What would you say?
I would say I want Todd Golden because John's 65 years old. I love John. John Calipari is a friend of mine. Love the guy to death. Has never ever gotten enough credit for all the charitable things he did. Like you remember a year or so ago when they had those big floods there that wiped out Appalachia just about. John Calipari went through the state, barnstorming stuff, holds basketball games, clinics, you name it. Raised millions upon millions upon millions of dollars for those people. And he's done similar things to that when there was tornadoes, etc. Has had a great philanthropical mindset behind him, and he really embraced Kentucky. And I love him to death for all the things he does, and he's a great basketball coach. But let me tell you something. Todd Golden is 38 years old. And last time I checked, that's 27 years difference. You could get a lot of mileage out of the rest of your career.
Yeah. I could see. That's why I asked the question. Obviously, I think Cal's got some good years. Here's the last question: why is it Cal, who tonight talked about being the son of a coal miner, wasn't? I forgot. In Western Pennsylvania, he's from the hard blue collar part, and prides himself on being a blue collar guy. Why is he looked upon as a slick guy, a shyster kind of person, who's a high roller and has another kind of image? Why is that?
Well, because you look at the people who've embraced him, and that has part of it. All these guys who play in the NBA who are multimillionaires, they have embraced him everywhere he's been. For example, when he was at when he was in Memphis. The chairman of FedEx is there, and the chairman of FedEx was one of his best buddies. The Tyson people, Tyson Chicken. Cal got them to donate chicken to people in Appalachia who lost everything, and they are fast friends. And buddy, here's what they offered him at Arkansas, and you tell me you wouldn't take it. $8.5 million base, $4.5 million of incentives, and $5 million of NIL money. And they say that's just a start. If you need more, we'll write the check.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a nice little tight sum. It was time, I guess. Although Spurrier will tell you he was sorry he ever left Florida. He made a bad decision. He didn't say bad, but he wishes he hadn't done it. By the way, speaking of which, it's all about the dollars. Freddie Weeby logging on here. Good evening to him. The reason I brought it up is tomorrow night he's our special guest. We're going to get an inside look at the NIL deals. We're going to get an inside look at Florida Victorious. He's got some, you know Freddie, and if anybody can ever get it done, I'm going to make a prediction. If this comes off like I think it will, not to put pressure on Freddie, but Freddie Weeby becoming the director of revenue for Florida Victorious will be as important as anybody that would hire as an athletic director of Florida, because you got to have that money to do it. So anyway, yeah, it's going to be interesting tomorrow night as our special guest on the program. So, all right,
Let
Scott.
me tell you something really quick about Freddie Weeby too. I had a very close friend of mine who recently is deceased, named Doug Wedgeworth, a guy who has helped every single coach from dating back to Charlie Pelt onward, getting kids out of the muck. He was vitally important to our recruiting efforts in Palm Beach County. Wanted to come up here with his family. Knew his time was coming short. He died recently. Knew he had 2 or 3 months left. I called Freddie up and said, "Can you take care of this guy?" Not only did Freddie take care of him, Freddie got Spurrier to stop in, and Freddie and Doug Wedgeworth and Freddie knew each other very, very well. And Freddie took care of everything and made it the most incredible afternoon for the entire Wedgeworth family.
Yeah.
And I owe him for that, because he took care of my friend and did it like nobody else could.
Yeah, well, I applaud the hire. I just thought they don't spread him too thin. He has so much going. Only one Freddie Weeby there. They need about 4 of them. So, all right, Franz, I want you to think about this. Softball team really doing well. They're in it for a possible other title. There's a story about Dan Bond tonight on GatorBait about there in there. Huh?
Lost to South Florida tonight.
They did? Okay, well, they're still in a good.
Had a bad ball game.
Yeah.
And buddy, this is a terrific team, but these freshmen are starting to hit a wall a little bit. And leave it to Tim. Tim Walton is a Hall of Fame coach, and he will get them rebooted, reprogrammed. But right now, the freshman pitchers kind of are hitting a bit of a wall. And understand this: in high school, they would get 12, 15 strikeouts a game, and they come here in the college level and they may get 4 or 5, because everybody can hit at this level. And sometimes with the freshmen, it takes them a while. They hit that wall because people are getting hits off them, and they think, "Oh my gosh, I'm terrible." Well, they're not terrible. They just have to learn how to pitch around and use more of the plate, etc., like that, than they've ever done before. So,
but they're still in it for the SEC. They're still in there for the SEC title. They're only 1 game back, so that wasn't a conference loss. But anyway, my next point is going to be say, what the heck happened to the baseball team? Oh my gosh, this is one of the worst periods of any I can remember. Not only did they lose to Missouri, a bad team, they get clobbered again for the 3rd time by FSU, who won that series 500-0. I mean, what an embarrassment! I don't know what's happened to the baseball program.
Well, talk to Nick De La Torre
hold on
when he comes on.
I will.
Because I'll tell you something that Nick pointed out in a very well-written piece that he did about the freshman arms that they were depending on, that are unavailable this year because of injuries in the fall and in the spring before the season began. and their pitching staff is short-handed because of that. Really good arms that were ahead of some of the arms he's having to use. So they're right now. Yeah, there you are, Freddie. That's a good quote. Thank you so much. But you know, they've got guys pitching now that would have been picking up extra innings here and there, and would have been behind some of the guys that have hurt arms. So it's a baptism by fire for a lot of these guys. But I can tell you right now, they're 32 games into the season. They still have 23 games to go. They're still a good weekend team. Got to remember, they lost these 3 games to Missouri. Were all by 1 run, all late in the inning.
Right. All right. I got to run here, so I got to get Scott on. I got to spot in there. Stand by for 1 second. Quick word from our sponsor, Scott Carter. Get his take on things. Plus, what's going on this weekend for the Orange and Blue game? Well, a lot, apparently. I'm sure Freddie will tell us about that tomorrow night. Coming up next, right here on the Buddy Martin Show, let's hear from our sponsor, Meldon Law. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV. But after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
All right, thanks very much, Freddie. Here is our buddy Scott Carter from somewhere in the catacombs of the Emporium over there, the football complex. Who knows where Scott? I think Scott sometimes sneaks over there and sleeps in that new facility. I'm not sure. Let's see what he's doing. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Hey guys, what's going on? I haven't slept over there, but there's enough room to sneak into a corner and take a nap.
Exactly. They never know it, man. We just we're just talking about the ups and downs of what's going on. We'll put the football over here for a second with the basketball, but certainly we know there's a couple of programs that are excelling, including gymnastics is one of them, and no track's going to be great, but softball team is playing okay. They got beat tonight. They still got a good beat on maybe winning a conference title. And boy, what has happened to the baseball team? My word, dropped off the face of the earth, Scott.
Well, I was looking up some stuff before I came on here. It's pretty easy when you look at the SEC statistics. Guess who is last in the SEC in pitching? And we haven't said this much under Kevin O'Sullivan because they have a 6.33 ERA. I can't remember I don't think any of his teams have ever finished remotely. Yeah. So, the pitching's just not there, guys. And they're all young. We know that. I think they have pitched 10 true freshmen. And, he's been saying it a lot after games. Franz has been around. He's heard it. Everybody's heard it. He's waiting for some of these guys to grow up. And quite frankly, I don't know. Time's running out. So, we've all seen it. Baseball, you go through slumps during the season and suddenly things start clicking and there's really no explanation of why it was bad and then why it was good. That's what I look at as this team. Are they going to be able to pull something off like that? It's questionable at this point. I think the offense haven't been hitting as well as they were. I think they're going to be fine. They'll start hitting again. But the pitching guys, unless they turn it around, this is the way it's going to go. You've just got to start pitching better.
We'll ask Nick De La Torre about this later on too, but it seems like we kind of take him for granted. Sully will always take those young pitchers and mold them into first-classy pitchers and good players, and by the end of the season, they're going to be seasoned veterans. This just is not the case this year, Franz. It seems like something's missing. I'm not sure if it's just an off year. Look, obviously Sully's not going to get in danger of losing his job. The program is not going down the tubes. but it's just so different. So you have to lose 3 games to Missouri and just get hammered again for the 3rd straight time. How many home runs does FSU hit against them? 100? Man.
It only seemed like it. But, buddy, I'll say this. When you've got, your Friday night rotation, what is 2 guys who were not starters the year before, and then you got CAG, and you're trying to save him. You're trying to get the maximum out of him by hitting him on Friday and Saturday, and then pitching him on Sunday, which that worked well at first. But the problem is this: CAG had a bad outing, granted, against Missouri on Sunday, but he's been pretty consistent this year. And you look at it, they have not had consistent starting pitching, and they don't have consistent veterans to do it. When you're 3 veteran pitchers, 2 of them are relievers and one of them's a starter that started on Sundays, kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's just Scott's not something we're used to seeing here. So let's switch the subject just for a second and talk about the football team. We've had this discussion several times, Franz, and I think maybe a little bit with Scott. And I don't want to sound like I'm a sunshine pumper here, but it does seem like there's a difference. There's a little difference in the attitude of the team. You're seeing the players and coaches brag about other players. You're talking about fundamentals being important, and Billy praising the tackling, getting runners on the ground, the secondary tackling. It does look like, and we still don't know, and we won't know because we're not going to get to see the defense in full gear and full tilt. But it sees and feels like the new coaches have made a difference. I'm not out there. You are a little bit, Franz. Scott, you get to see quite a bit of what's going on.
Well, I mean, there is a renewed energy. There's no question about that. With guys like Gerald Chapman and Will Harris, the new coaches, they've really brought some energy, I think, to the staff that was missing. And you just need new voices sometimes in all teams. And I think that's helped. You got Ron Roberts kind of, he's on the field, but he's also important in the building just to have that veteran guy who balances the youth of some of the staff out. But the biggest difference, guys, I mean, we're in that time of year, where it should be upbeat, right? It's spring football.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new people involved. There's a lot of new players on campus. There's some big-time recruits we're getting to see for the first time. And the fans will finally get to see, DJ Lagway on Saturday. They'll get to see LJ McCray, some of the other guys. I know Miles Graham obviously isn't playing. But there's enough new guys that they'll get to see on Saturday. They'll get to see some new coaches. And man, I don't know about you guys, but spring football to me, the best part about it is just to get to the orange and blue game and get some live action and see what it looks like. Because we know it doesn't count in the records or anything. But so I think, Buddy, to answer your question, I think it's just the newness factor. That's why there is I think a renewed sense of hope. And I don't know what it's going to look like come fall, but I do like the attitude and the approach they've taken this spring.
You know what I like, Scott?
What's that?
We've gone through spring practice, and I haven't seen a single torn ACL in spring practice.
Yes, they've had some of those in recent years. That is good. Hopefully that will stay that way, because I know last year, the kid who we talked to last week, the Norwood kid, I know he said he hurt his knee in camp. But yeah, it's always great. I mean, that's almost like the number one goal through spring football, right? Don't have any serious injuries. So that's always a plus. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, Miles Graham had the lingering back issue. They went ahead and took care of that. So hopefully he'll be ready, by fall and early in the season. So anytime you can go through this time of year without injuries, that is always a plus. You got the new coaches, and I'll be curious to see. I mean, Billy was, he said he's going to stick to his spring game format, which he's always used. But I won't be surprised if he opens it up a little bit more, because I think last year's game, a little too much defense, fellas.
Yeah, they let those linebackers blitz all day and all night. I can't wait to see Lagway and see the rest of them. I know you can't tell a great deal, but you can also sense something about a guy on the field, how he carries himself, the way he responds. I'm looking forward to actually seeing him on Saturday. Now, look, we're not covering this, but also there's a little something going on called the Masters this week. And now we've all been there and love it. In fact, Nick Torre is just getting back from there tonight. And I would say if I had to pick one event to cover, that would be it, just because of and I've done it about 30 times. It's great. But it's a little different this year. We've got kind of a divided squad. The LIV is coming in there. But it's just so refreshing to turn on the TV today and see the par 3 where the players have their little children out there and they're making their putting and whatever. Just call a truce in golf for a change, with the LIV players talking to the other players. Everybody seems like there's some kind of discord going on. It's just good. It felt good to see that out there, and I'm looking forward to it. Have you guys thought about it? Do you have any ideas, any picks? And we'll get Nick to join us and tell us, what are your thoughts about the Masters there, Scott?
Well, I mean, I go with the hot hand in golf. I mean, I know Scheffler has been the top player in both sides this year. So I look at him to be in contention. He's played well there over the years. That's who I would go with. As far as just a bigger picture of the Masters, I mean, I love it too. It's one of those places that if you've been there, you don't forget it, obviously. And I did like to see those kids today. I saw Bubba Watson's daughter make that huge putt. And golf's supposed to be a gentleman game, right? I mean, that's what makes golf golf. You're supposed to go out there and be a courteous gentleman and a good sportsman. So I would like to see some of that return, because the way it's been lately, it's almost like they've been wanting to club each other over the head instead of club the ball. So
civility is a wonderful thing to see for a change, isn't it? I mean, really.
Yeah, I mean that's why I mean, I would say it would probably boost ratings a lot Sunday if a couple of guys got in a fight on the 8th hole. But that's not what it's really about.
I don't know. Just like Iowa needed that. They did pretty well in the ratings. They did all right. So, all right. So, before Nick gets, give me your one favorite memory, Franz. I know you got a couple because you and I ran through the mud one night there coming out of when I first met you with your little cheat. It wouldn't go backwards and the gear was broken. Scott, do you have one memory, one pimento cheese story, one whatever that you?
I'm unlike you guys. I have never actually covered the Masters. I've been to Augusta National, and I covered the first Augusta Women's Amateur back in 19. The Gators had 2 players up there that day. Okay. I followed Sierra Brook all on the course, and I tell everybody who ever asked, I mean, it was the most beautiful golf course I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I remember it being a lot hillier than I ever imagined from TV, because at the end of the day, I remember having about 20,000 steps on my watch, and I went back to my hotel, and man, I was as tired as if I'd been in a long time. But it was a fun day, and my Masters memory, I mean, you guys will remember this. You probably were there. I was just 15, 16 years old. I'll just never forget that shot Larry Mize made to win it in the 80s.
Crazy.
I mean, I was like the first time I really remember being like watching golf and like, whoa, this is cool. And, I just still will always remember that shot.
That playoff shot, and that ball should have gone off the green in the water. I was there. Yeah. I thought, that's going to go in the water. And it's in the hole. And Master, and he's an Augusta guy, and he won. Many great memories there. I don't know, friends, I don't want to get too nostalgic about this, but every year when I went to the Masters and walked inside those gates off Washington Road, everything about me changed. My whole persona, my feelings, my thoughts, the beauty of the place. And if you haven't been there, you don't understand the undulating hills that are there. It's not a flat course. When you walk like this, like Scott said. You want to walk a little, you'll find out. And obviously the smell, the flowers, the dogwoods, the azaleas, all the history behind it. And one thing I discovered too was I covered it from being from the South the first few times. But when I lived in the North, like New York or Denver, and flew into Augusta that time of year and smelled those flowers and got off that plane and saw that green grass, I understood why all those guys like Grantland Rice and all those guys loved coming there, because it was so beautiful, so green, so colorful. It is a special place, remains today, friends, and may it never change.
Well, let's hope it never changes. I got to tell you, of course, I have a great memory of losing first gear trying to get out of the mud with you and Ray Holloman
Yeah.
in my car in 1973. And I think because I did such a good job of manipulating us out of Augusta National when we didn't think we were going to, Ray offered me a job while Buddy was in the car, and I took it. So that's an obvious memory. But my great memory is Jack winning it in 84. Or was it 85? 85.
86.
86. Well, I knew it was one of them. I'm getting old. I don't remember the exact date.
I remember it exactly.
Jack went in that last one. Never, ever have there been two more gracious golfers on this planet than Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. Best of friends, closest of friends, so happy for each other when the other one would win. And Jack winning that one, and as I've been told, getting that hug when he came off there from the great Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't there to see the hug, but I heard about it.
Yeah.
But I watched the interview with Jack, and the most gracious guy ever, winning a tournament, knowing that, he had defied all the odds by winning it at such an age.
46.
46 years old. What a great moment.
Yeah. All right. So, friends, here's the deal. I'm not at my home. I'm in my sister-in-law's. My Wi-Fi is not very strong here tonight, and I'm going to have a hard time getting everybody on.
So you're kicking me off the foot.
I'm kicking you off because Nick is waiting in the wings. I want him and Scott to talk for a second. And thank you for coming in, and thanks for your thoughts on Calipari. As always, the great fan spirit had stuff to say about Calipari that you don't hear anywhere else. Thank you, Francis.
I've been voted off the island, Scott.
Tomorrow night you'll be back. You'll be back with Freddie Weeby tomorrow night. Thank you.
You'll be back on the island soon, I'm sure.
All right. Thanks, Franz. All right. So let's say goodnight to Francis. Thank you for that. And let's go and see if we can got enough power here to be able to ring up our friend Nick Torre, who is just back off the boat from Augusta National, Scott. He was there among the dogwoods and the azaleas. I bet he had a lot of Pete's cobbler. But look here, what's he got? Look at this. Oh, my gosh, look at this. Master's got, he probably spent about $500 and there's one, yeah. I said don't spend all of your money because how much did you spend, Nick? How much did you spend?
I don't know if my wife's listening.
Oh, okay.
Did you even paint your wall green back there too? Is that a green wall?
It's a blue wall, but there are that's a par 3 flag there from 2019, and then that yellow one is actually from 2020. I had a friend who went in or was going to go in 2020, and they didn't have the tournament, but they let them shop online. So that 2020 flag might be worth something someday.
You're all decked out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was it?
Awesome. It the day flies by. I'm attached to this thing myself when I'm attached to it, but you can't bring it into Augusta, and I don't miss it at all when I'm there. So no tweets, no texts, no work calls. Just walking around drinking 10 a.m. beers around one of the most beautiful courses.
For what, $2.50 a piece on the beers, or $3? What are they? Not very expensive.
I think the beers were like $4 or $5.
Oh, they've gone up. They used to be real cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, real expensive. I think you can buy one of everything they offer for $66.
Well, yeah, they. I know that for a long time you could have lunch for $4. Back in the day. Yeah. Well, all right. So, what was your favorite thing, Nick? Before we get into the business of talking other sports, what's the favorite thing that you did in Augusta? This was your first, right?
My second. I went in 2019.
Oh, okay. All right. What was your favorite thing you did?
I think it's just being there with your friends. I went with my best man, 2 of my groomsmen, and one of my groomsmen's brother-in-law. Just walking the whole course, kind of taking it in. It's beautiful. It's hard to get there. I didn't know if I'd ever get there, and to be able to go twice is really cool.
Yeah. So Robert Turner wants to know who wins in Augusta. Let's start with Scott. and I'll give you mine, and Nick can give us theirs. And Nick, we're going to talk a little baseball and football after that. So, what you got for a winner, Scott?
I'm sticking with Scheffler, man. I just have to go with the hot guy, right? He's been the
He's
hottest.
certainly hot. He's certainly hot.
Really. But that's the great thing about Augusta. I mean, it's always full of surprises. I can't remember some years who won, but I remember the years like when the unexpected happens, like we talked about Larry Mize or even Tiger in 2019, and there's been so many of them. I always like Bubba Watson at Augusta. He seems to always do something there. So, but I got to go with Scheffler, man. I'm going with the safe pick, kind of like Nick up at bat. I go with Scheffler.
All right, not a bad one. He's a hot guy. I tried to not do the obvious, Nick. I'm going to give you mine, and I did this on Brady's show, and then let's let you top it off with your picks, all right? I'm going with the guy I've been looking at really strong for the last couple of years, under the radar. He's not one of your glamour guys or guys you would pick out and say, yeah, this guy's the man. I've watched him play. I've watched him putt. I've seen how consistent he is. He doesn't make many mistakes, and he don't seem to think of much, but Brian Harman is a guy that I think has got a chance here, and he's a lefty. We've had lefties win Augusta. Do you guys know how many current southpaws there are in golf? Anybody want to guess?
No, I think there's 4 in the field.
Yeah, there's 15 altogether. Ted Potter, by the way, from Ocala is one of them. But yeah, so anyway, Brian Harman, I think he's a good. Most left-handers, as you know, Nick, from baseball, are erratic lefties. They get screwball kind of guys. Harman's a solid guy, and a guy who, when he's got his mind focused, and he has a lot, can roll his rock, and also is really good around the greens. He doesn't get in trouble off the tee. And he's a guy, of course, he's a Georgia guy. He'd love to win. So that's my off-the-wall pick. Now, here's my next one. Not as off the wall, but a guy who's playing really well right now. Hideki Matsuyama is just playing really great golf right now. He's made some shots in recent weeks off the green that has blown my mind. Almost hold him out. So I'm going to go him with second, and then I'm going to make a sentimental pick. He was my wife's favorite golfer and won it one time. She rooted for him every week. My late wife, Jordan Spieth. He's 20-1. Love to see him. Those are my three. Not necessarily ones you'd pick to bet money on, but those are my three. What do you think about that, Nick? And who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Scott with the hot hand, Scotty Scheffler. We got lucky. We kind of would walk up to a green or walk up to a tee box because we were there for a practice round, and you don't know who's coming up. Guys are kind of scattered around, and I kind of ended up following Scotty and his group for a little while. He was super loose, joking around. He was with I forget, Nick, one of the rookies, Nick something that from Alabama. I'm blanking on his last name, but joking around with him. I was feeling good about Brooks, but then I saw Brooks late at one of the practice greens going back and forth between a regular blade putter and then a mallet putter. And I'm like, listen, if you are going back and forth with putters on Tuesday, good luck winning the Masters. I think, there's a couple guys, Hideki being one of them, who's not thought of to be a good putter, certainly better than the three of us, but not thought of to be a good putter that have green jackets, but not too many. This is the place you have to putt. So I'm going to go with Scotty. I think Rory. I think Rory's playing great golf.
Yeah, he is. Well, I'd like to see him win, too.
We watched him play a little bit and watched him drive on 12. I would love to see him get his first green jacket. I think he was done pretty dirty by the PGA. They made him their poster boy to fight against Liv before they took a nice check from Liv. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be a good story.
Yeah.
And then a couple. I'm in a Masters pool, so a couple of my sneaky picks would be my longer shots would be Shane Lowry and Cam Smith. So that'll be the four I give you tonight.
That's good. And McIlroy he's 10-1, I guess. He was what he is right now. He's just certainly the best player never to won at Augusta, and it's a golf course that suits his game. That's the thing about it. He's 34 years old. He's overdue. He'd be a great pick. I'm just going to go away from all the obvious picks here. So, well, listen, it's like a great time. And Scott, before we let you go, and we'll get some pick next, bring a little bit on baseball and football. What's all the buzz about in the building? about where this football program, stands right now. They seem to really be getting an uptick, and it seems like things are happening. I don't know from the outside, man. How's it look from the inside?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot to happen, as you guys know. I mean, whenever you make as many changes in the off season as Billy Napier made this season, I mean, it reshaped the organization on the field, in the office. So there's always a renewed hope that comes with that, as you guys know. And I think some of it was needed just because of, Napier said it himself. I mean, this was a learning curve for him. I think at Florida, a lot bigger than at Louisiana. And then you throw in the NIL stuff, and he's talked a lot to us about just how much of his time has been spent in that avenue. I think they finally gained some traction there. You obviously see Florida Victorious is actually the sponsor for the orange and blue game. I know Freddie Weeby's doing some good things behind the scenes of the organization. And I know Freddie, I was listening to him on the radio in Tampa today, and he was pushing it hard. He's hoping they get 60 or 70,000 people out there. So he's doing his part on that side. But as we all know, guys, and I'm just a realist, I mean, this should be the time of year where there is hope, and I hope it carries over to the season. But we all know that once what is it, August 31st, September 1st? I don't know. The Miami game,
August 31st.
Yeah, you got to win that game and just kick it off on a good note.
Yeah,
and
that's
carry momentum, because if you lose that game, it just kind of spoils all the momentum that you built to that point. So we'll just see. But I do think there's a renewed hope, and I am kind of excited just to see what happens Saturday. I want to see a lot of these new guys like Nick and you guys. So.
Yeah, I do too, certainly. And by the way, on that point of Freddie Weeby, we talked about it earlier. He'll be on tomorrow night on our show. We're going to get a lot of questions answered. But I think that his moving over to being the chief financial officer, whatever he is there, the revenue guy, was a brilliant move. He's the very best man they could have gotten, I know of. And he wants everybody to know the details of what's going on. And let me just give you a few little things. It's an 11:30 game. Hoorah for that. No more night games. It's a free admission. Pre-game activities for fans. And the north end zone law opens at 10 o'clock. Gator Walk kickoff. Non-reserved parking available on a first-come, first-served basis. And they're giving away a 2-year lease on a brand-new Chevy Silverado, courtesy of Southern Chevy dealers in Ocala, Gainesville. So the goodies to give away, and then, of course, public giveaways. And I guess they're going to, guys, have you heard this, Rob? I mean, Scott, that they're going to be people allowed on the field after to sign autographs with players, and only if you're a member of Florida Victorious can you go down there.
Yeah, that's one of the perks I think Florida Victorious members have at Saturday's game. They will get to go down the field, kind of a meet and greet with the players. So that's something different for all of us. I haven't seen that before, so that's just the times we live in. And I think, buddy, the gates may open at 11, but the kickoff's at 1, I'm pretty sure, right, Nick? My facts, but yeah.
It's 11:30. 11:30, yeah.
Yeah, and game is at 1. Mm-hmm. And I think if the Gators win, they may even give Nick a cheeseburger, man. He wants to.
I don't think so.
Not a cheeseburger. He wants another one of those peach coppers up from up in Augusta. That's what he wants now.
That's right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate anything you're writing about we should know, Scott, before I let you go.
I got some football stuff, obviously, to preview the Saturday's game. A little gymnastics column, writing a feature on, Nick will know this woman. I don't know if you will, buddy. She's been at Florida for a long time. Ann Hughes. You know Ann? She's a baseball academic person, been at the UA since 1981. And I just started talking to her last year at the College World Series. She has a really interesting story, not only at UF, but also in baseball. So I just want to shine a spotlight on her. So a little different story.
Sure, why not? Heck yeah. All right, people are jumping.
Academically eligible.
That's right.
Yeah. Several people jumping on the picks. Go at Tony Fino. I like Tony Fino. I wish he'd win too. All right. So I'll let you go, Scott. Thank you very much. Read them on FloridaGators.com. And Nick, we're not through with you, so just hold tight. We'll tell people a little bit about what's going on here with our sponsors. All right. I want to remind you, folks, this program is sponsored, although we don't talk much about our sponsors. They sometimes give us commercial-free time, but you know about it, Belden Law. They've been doing this a long time, sponsoring this program, and we appreciate all of that. TitanMRI.com is an interesting company. They're doing things nobody else is doing in terms of the MRI field. And people up in North Florida, Ocala and Gainesville, can schedule a non-traditional MRI at night or weekends. You can do that. They'll do that for you because they know it's a hard time sometimes to get on your work day. And they all do accommodate you in the experience. If you ever had an MRI, you get a little bit antsy about going in that tube. We all have done it. And you get a little claustrophobic. One of the things they do is they make a larger bore. It makes it a little more comfortable for you to get in there. And they are Florida's newest premier independent diagnostic testing facility. And they're available now in Gainesville and Ocala. Check them out, TitanMRI.com. Nick, what has happened to the baseball team?
Yeah, I don't know. Luckily, I was at Augusta and didn't watch Tuesday. I tuned in around the fifth inning, saw the score, and said, "Good thing I'm not covering this one." Just a really, it's kind of the same issues. Pitching wise, I think pitching wise, you went your ERA ballooned to over 6 on the season as a team. Friday, you didn't get enough from Brandon Neely, which means you have to go to Cade Fisher, who you didn't get enough on Tuesday against FAMU, so you had to use Cade Fisher on Tuesday, even before you get to the weekend. You'd like to not have to use him and just save him. So you're not getting the starts that you thought you would or you should. Listen, you can't keep asking Jack. You can't expect Jack to go 6+, 7 innings every single Sunday to take you, out of a hole. And then offensively, I'm just starting to see Florida seems really, really reliant on home runs, and they're never going to be a small ball team. They're not going to bunt. They're not going to go station to station. But situationally, and I think it's probably frustrating the coaching staff, situationally, if I'm up and I'm the 7-hole hitter, 8-hole hitter, first guy's on, runner on first with no outs or runner on second with no outs, like I have a job to do. My job might not be to hit a 2-run homer. It might be to slap a ball into the 4-hole to move the guy over. I think it was bottom or top of the 9th on Sunday. Florida's leading by 2. They get bases loaded, no outs, and they go strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. Just huge swings. And I understand that people want to blame the coaches, but as a former baseball player, you know what you're supposed to do. Bases loaded, no outs. I need a ball that I can drive.
Contact.
A ball that I can drive into the outfield. I just don't want to roll over a ball and hit a ball on the ground. First guy strikes out, that's okay. You didn't hit a double play. Second guy, well, now the first guy struck out. And now I really need to hit a ball that I can elevate into the air. I don't need to hit a home run. I don't need to swing out of my shoes. I just need to get a ball in the air to the outfield to score a run. And Florida just, they're a team that strikes out a lot. Baseball's changing. Everything now is analytics and launch angle. How hard can you throw and how hard can you hit it? We're losing some of that slap it the other way. I think Jack has actually done a really good job of taking balls the other way this year. But there's just too much. And I think guys need to understand their roles. Not everyone's going to be a 15 home run guy. And if I'm the 8-hole, 9-hole hitter, I'm probably down there for a reason. And when I get up, I need to do a job, whether that's get on base or move a guy over. I think Florida needs to just be more situationally aware. And it doesn't mean you're going to be 100% successful. But striking out 3 straight times with bases loaded, no outs is just unacceptable. And I think even the players that struck out would tell you that too. I'm not, throwing mud on anybody. They'd say the same thing.
Well, it's no secrets. I mean, obviously. Sully, get any heat at all?
No, just signed a fresh deal. Just signed a fresh contract extension before the year. It's interesting. I heard Jeff Cardozo on the radio saying he thinks maybe the team's a little entitled. And that can happen. That can come with success. Maybe that crept in to the 13, 14 teams, because you go to Omaha 10, 11, 12, and you're so good 10, 11, 12. Well, you're good because of all the work those guys put in and the attitude they brought to the field. You're not good just because you walk onto a field and you have Florida across your chest. And it takes a lot of time, time and effort and work and skill, to earn what the program under Kevin O'Sullivan has earned, to earn that, top-notch blue chip program. And some of it's like they're young in spots, but the bats aren't young. And when you look at the schedule now, you're halfway through the SEC slate. And I really thought Florida needed to win 5 of their games the last 2 weekends. And I thought Missouri was a weekend where they could sweep potentially. The Tigers were unranked, 1-8 in SEC play coming into the weekend. You should have won that series. It's tough to win games on the road, but if you are a team that I think Florida can be, that's a series you win and a series you might sweep. And because of errors on Friday, Saturday, bad pitching performances throughout the weekend, you end up getting swept. And now you have South Carolina, at Vanderbilt, at Arkansas, Tennessee, a Kentucky team who's 11-1, and Georgia, who's struggling in the SEC, but will give Florida's pitching staff some trouble, I think. So it's going to be a tough road. You went from 6-3 in the SEC to 6-6 with that really tough stretch. So Florida's got a lot of work to do, and they're going to have to find some answers quickly.
I get in this discussion a lot with Shane, and I know the conventional way of thinking is the insiders say, don't worry about the games you lose during the middle of the week. Those games don't matter. Just worry about the big weekend, and they'll come around. Everybody, somebody's going to get those young pitchers, whatever. And as a former player myself, by the way, and letterman in Florida in baseball, I take a little pride in not losing those midweek games to those inferior teams. I don't like to see them lose to Georgia Southern or whoever. Don't worry about it. Well, I worry about it, and I don't think you can sort of say, that means nothing, because when you lose the game, it's a loss. Period. I don't care what you say, and so I wonder sometimes if the cavalier attitude about, well, don't worry about those midweek games, doesn't carry over sometimes. I wish they would care more about losing those games. And you're right, and I think Cardozo is correct. They are a bit entitled, no question about it. And there's a lot of good baseball teams in the SEC, as you know. And when you go and get drummed by Missouri, a team that's a lousy team, then you got problems. It's going to be interesting to see how if they can pull out of this nosedive, because I don't want to say it's broken, but it's starting to feel like it.
Yeah, I think we disagree a little bit on midweek games. I think midweek games are for orange slices. You're trying to get freshmen some innings. That first month, those midweek games, you're trying to figure out the way that Kevin O'Sullivan runs his program. Hey, you're all going to get opportunities right now, and if you don't earn my trust in this first month, then you're just not going to play when SEC comes. The problem was nobody played well on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the first month. So now you had to keep spending that time once the SEC play started to try to figure out those guys. They're still waiting for somebody to step up and take the reins and be the starting third baseman. They're still waiting for one of the 2 guys. Now it's 3 guys to step up and take the center field job. And if somebody can take 2 outfield jobs, then you can move Tyler Shelnut, who people get on him for his defense in left field, but he's a third baseman. So he's playing out of position. I think he would be better suited for Florida. You have to keep his bat in the line, be better suited at third base, but you're just not getting guys to step up. Now, my caveat to really not caring what they do midweek games is Florida State and Kevin O'Sullivan losing to Florida State, something he hasn't done.
What are you like 22 and 22 times out of 27 or something?
Yeah, they were like 22-5 in the last 27. Yeah. Florida hadn't lost 3 games in a row to Florida State, not in a season, 3 games in a row since 2010, 2011, when Kevin O'Sullivan was first getting there. And the great late Mike Martin was still bringing the Noles to Omaha back in those years. So Florida State hadn't swept a season series since 2002. I was in middle school.
Well, not only that, Nick, think about this. They're getting beat. They're getting clobbered. I mean, I don't know how many home runs they must have hit 100 against them.
Power out of them. Two of the 3 wins were by run rule. Florida did not compete with Florida State on the diamond this year, and that's something that I've never said. I've covered Florida
I know.
Since 2013, and I've never seen Florida not compete with Florida State the way they did this year. Link Jarrett's a great coach. It's going to be a much more competitive rivalry with Link Jarrett there. The way he recruits and coaches, I really like the way he builds a program, and I look forward to that. I look forward to battles. But Florida needs to show up to those battles, and they simply just didn't this year. And I know it's rubbed Kevin O'Sullivan the wrong way because he knows how important that FSU rivalry is to the fans.
Yeah. Bottom one for you, I know you got to go. Thank you, Nick, for spending time with us on the program. And Franz had asked Nick about the softball team, about the young pitchers on the softball team. Having a good year. They lost it tonight, unfortunately, but they still got a chance to win the SEC. What's Tim Walton's bunch doing? How do you feel about them? And do you think the program is elite?
Yeah, well, I don't watch them as much as I watch baseball. But I don't want to mess their name up. Keegan Rothrock has been great. Ava Brown has been great. Mackenzie Wooten and Olivia Miller. Those are the 4 that they really roll with. And I think Keegan is having an exceptional season with an ERA south of 2 and 14 complete games. They're a really fun team to watch. I think they're 9-3 in conference play. If someone wanted to check me on that, and 34-7 overall. They're really, really good, and I think they have a nice young group of freshmen. And the one thing that I really, really like about women's sports in college, and I think I was talking to Ben Chase about it in terms of NIL, was before this season, he said, in terms of your NIL dollars, women's basketball players this year will be worth like your best return on investment. And we saw how much attention women's basketball got with the transfer portal and with guys leaving early in football and in basketball. You kind of get roster refreshes over and over. And if you get into some of these women's sports, if you get into gymnastics and women's basketball and softball, you get to know these girls. They come in as freshmen, and for the most part, they stick around for 2, 3, 4 years. So I've always liked and appreciated I know they're non-revenue sports and it's not football, and football gets our attention mostly, but there's a diehard group of fans for softball and gymnastics, and I think a growing one for women's basketball. And I like the way Kelly Ray is building that program. But yeah, Tim Walton is an elite softball coach, and I think calls of his decline were premature.
Okay, I said I was going to be the last one, but I got to ask you about the women's the programs and how popular they are now. If you look at the numbers, sure, the numbers are. I mean, they blew everything out of the water on TV, including NFL games, whatever. Was it? Do you think that the Caitlin Clark was a one-shot wonder, or is there something going on there with women's sports?
I think it's a little inflated this year, probably because Caitlin Clark was so special, and I mean, she commanded respect and commanded those eyes, and I think because she was so polarizing, it kind of brought the game with her. But I think you can say that for a lot of other people. It'll be interesting for me to see, does women's basketball nationally have another star like her? There won't be another Caitlin Clark, but somebody who is as polarizing and is as good that can kind of drag the people like me who wouldn't be watching the women's basketball tournament. I'd be watching baseball now, MLB baseball now that it's on. And, hey, I'm tuning into women's tournament games because I've started to watch and started to see and follow some of the storylines. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think that their ratings will continue to climb the way they did. But like Don Staley in South Carolina, I was talking to our South Carolina site, they have a full-time beat reporter covering South Carolina women's basketball.
I can understand that. That's an amazing story. Well, there was so much to cover. I mean, if you're a basketball, I mean, covering men's and women's is a full-time job by itself. But that was a wonderful tournament and great for the women. I think great for sports. Listen, always good stuff. Nick Del Torre on 3. Anything special we should look for out of you, Nick, next couple of weeks or days? Orange and blue coverage.
It's all football. I'll have 3 football stories up on Thursday, 3 more on Friday. Baseball, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, big series with South Carolina. Encourage, if you're coming into town or if you live in town, you're going to the spring game, head on over to Conjuring after that. I'm excited to see what kind of crowds they'll have this weekend, assuming people are coming into town for the spring game. I like to see, some spillover from football to get some great crowds. I think, is softball home this week or are they away this week?
I'm not sure.
I haven't pulled up. I'll be able to tell you right now.
Somewhere like Dan Bob.
Unfortunately, softball's away this weekend. But head on over to Conjuring, which means if softball's away, there'll be more parking over there for you. So
sure.
Head on over to Conjuring. Florida, South Carolina is a great baseball rivalry and a great baseball series.
Listen, Nick Del Torre, read him on 3. I do. I'm a subscriber. You should too. Nick, we appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Nick Del Torre, bringing it to you. I want to say thank you to our guest tonight, Franz. Earlier talking about John Calipari going to Arkansas. Scott Carter putting in perspective things that are happening in Gainesville. And Nick Del Torre bringing you all the information you need on everything from on 3. I want to say thank you to our sponsors tonight. Of course, we are always grateful to have our friend Jeffrey Meldon, TitanMRI.line. And we also especially want to recognize these people who have been with us for a long time and doing stuff in our community, as well as doing something for our program. And we just are very, very grateful for the people at RenStar.net. You can help them by joining up and doing some of those clinical trials. They want you to know the reason these things are successful, they're doing, are because of you, the volunteer, when you volunteer to help out. And the clinical trials are available to you if you want to apply. You go to RenStar.net and get involved in it. They are making it available to anybody who wants to be a part of it. They bring in people and give them the placebo or give them a pill of treatment, and they take the data and send it off to these major biochemical companies and get some great data they can to help you and I have better health in our area. So check them out. Go to RenStar.net. Find out if you're eligible to become a participant in the clinical trials. RenStar Medical. RenStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Have a great night, folks. We're back here tomorrow night with Freddie Weeby. It's going to be a great night. Thank you.